pallet like cut. Oh, this is gonna be thousands of dollars, and we're just crying. And I'm just like, hand the guy a credit card. Like, I'm screwed.
Right.
We had just gotten married too, so. Good afternoon, Greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Time, and we both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we have got a ton of stuff to cover today. I feel like this summer news cycle, Sarah, is one of the busiest I can remember in a very long time. We've got Jerome Powell making comments about the time has come to adjust policy. We've got another lawsuit, this time about steering in Utah, which we'll get to in the second segment. And then we've got the DOJ again coming out and reversing a decision of sorts about this company called RealPage. It has to do with rents. And we've got some fake leads being sold by Realtor.com, allegedly, in another lawsuit. So a lot of lawsuit talk today. If you like what you hear, you get some value out of this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to connect with our team to talk about how these comments from Jerome Powell might impact your real estate plans, you can do that with the link in the comments. So, Sarah, I'm sure you were glued to the television 10 a.m. on Friday when Jerome Powell spoke. All kidding aside, I know that's, you just got CNBC streaming nonstop like everybody else, right?
Oh, yeah.
You don't need to watch it. You just want to read the articles. That's my view. So he came out. The Fed has their lovely retreat every year in Jackson Hole this time of year. I guess that, it must be nice. Go out there for a week, talk about some monetary policy.
Yeah.
And Jerome Powell came out and said, and he led off the comments on Friday with the following quote: "The time has come for policy to adjust." Now, before I get your reaction here, I want to give some color to this, because the day before, on August 21st, the Fed had made an egregious error where the benchmark revisions for the jobs market were revised down by 818,000 jobs. This is a 30% decrease from the 2.9 million jobs initially reported. And the reaction from the economic analyst environment, Logan Mohtashami came out and said the Fed has overplayed their hand. There's been other reactions, which we'll talk about here in a second. I don't think they had any choice but to make these comments. So what do you think about this, this awful measurement they were using, and the comments that now we're going to start adjusting policy, which foreshadows the September meeting?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a little, I don't know, like ominous is the right word, but time to make, the time has come for the policy adjustments. I mean, I think it depends on how they plan on adjusting it for whether or not that would be helpful or not, which I guess they haven't fully indicated. They've just said, it's just kind of like foreshadowing the next meeting, which will be here pretty soon.
Well, I think there's part of that, but I mean, Logan Mohtashami came out and talked about how, he felt the Fed overplayed their hand. His exact quote was, "The one thing that we all know for now that the Fed has used the labor market being so tight, saying we have kept policy very restrictive. We have to attack the labor supply. There's too many jobs being created." Clearly right now, they were behind the curve on that. And they were using they use these numbers that are a little outdated. So to see an $818,000 misread, as soon as that happened, the market rallied. Like, we saw rates coming in like a little closer to 6 last week. Nick Timmeros, who he's basically like the Adam Schefter. You know who Adam Schefter is, right? He's like the Adam Schefter of like financial news. He works for the Wall Street Journal. He came out and said job growth wasn't as strong in the year ended March as initially reported. And then he goes on to, he's a good follow if you want to you want to follow this, you want to follow economic news. And he said that the economy added all these jobs, and that would lower monthly payroll gains by $68,000 a month on average. So there's a lot of fallout here. There's all kinds of comments, and the biggest one I saw was from Amy Nixon. So Amy Nixon, she's an economist down in Dallas, and her quote was this. Get ready for this one. You're gonna like this quote. I think you're gonna enjoy this one. "The Fed is like the designated driver that you invite to a party who shows up 2 hours late, drunk, and starts buying shots for everybody."
That is good.
I mean, it was pretty aggressive, and I think she was worried she was going to get like blackballed from CNBC after that. And when they talk about buying shots for their friends, they're talking about all the money that was printed, right? How they were saying, "Oh, we need to print money. We need to keep doing this." And now we're in this spot where people have been calling for them to adjust rates for a couple months. The Fed finally came out and said it. I mean, so how do you see this affecting the housing market in the fall? I mean, we know what the stats are. The CME group's predicting we're going to see the likelihood. It's a 63% chance today that there's going to be a 25 basis point decrease. There's a 36.5% chance we see a 50 basis point decrease. So if you chart this compared to last week, it went from about 75 to around 63. If we were looking at the end of July, the odds were an 88.4% chance of a 25 basis point cut. So that's moved substantially here. I mean, a 25% swing in the favor of a 50 basis point increase.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's going to be a 25 basis point.
Okay.
But that's just kind of a gut feeling.
Well, the odds are in your favor, so I don't think that's totally good.
Right, but I mean, it is, but it's shifting. It's so yeah, but I think it'll be a 25 basis point change there. And so wait, I'm a little bit confused. So they are unhappy with because I thought last week they were happy with the jobs.
Well, so they erased a bunch of jobs. So what happened was they revised everything down. So how this works, and I'm glad you brought this up because I don't think a lot of people understand this. So they have this number that they come up with, and it's the annual benchmark revisions, right? So it's to the non-farm payroll numbers show actual employment growth. And they were predicting it was going to be around 2.9 million jobs that were added. Well, they revised it down by 818,000.
Okay.
So they basically erased that job growth. And when that happened, and I mean, you look at this here, some of the places that had the biggest benchmark revisions was professional and business services. That was one of the largest. Leisure and hospitality was right there. Retail trade. And then when you look at the jobs that were really created, it was a lot of government jobs being created, which I don't think is good for spending. So when this kind of stuff happens, it changes things a little bit because they always look at these numbers that aren't totally right. Like they're made up numbers in some cases, just like what they looked at for inflation when they were looking at owner's equivalent rent. It's like a made up number, what you would pay to rent your house out. Well, you're not renting your house, you bought it.
Right. I'm renting one of them.
Well, you're not renting the house you live in, right. and that's why it's called owner's equivalent. So, yes. So I mean, I look at this, and I'm a little concerned that if we don't see a more major cut, the economy it's probably a little more fragile than we thought. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, there is an election coming up, and I think that's going to be a factor here. I mean, the fact that people are going to talk about, oh, well, we made this cut because of the election and those sort of things, and now with these Fed comments, I mean, Housing Wire, they went on to say here that the immediate reaction to the speech resulted in reductions in like yields and longer term treasuries. We saw the market rally a little bit. We saw that the mortgage rate forecast continues to look for mortgage rates to drift closer to 6%, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. So I feel like a lot of this is already priced into what's going to happen or what's been happening with rates.
Right. But I mean, how much do these, I mean, obviously these numbers then go on to impact all of the different areas that you said they do. But if they are the ones that kind of are making up these numbers and then they're the ones that are adjusting them, like it's how much weight do we have to put on it?
Well, I think the problem is that like if you look at construction jobs, right, they fell by 45,000. That's a lead indicator because there's so much of the economy's in housing, right? And so do we need and then like the question is, do we need signs of layoffs before people start acting on this here? So it's a lot of the data has been lagged, and now like the real stuff is coming out.
So these are the real numbers.
Yes, these are real numbers based on, and they were using the revisions like so. And this is a great question because I don't think a lot of people get this stuff. So there was 2.9 million jobs were initially reported, and the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, they revise previously reported estimates of job creation. So it's all estimates. So they're forecasting this, but then when it comes in lower, it's kind of like when they forecast inflation and then it comes in lower or higher, the market kind of reacts. So that's exactly what they're talking about.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you're thinking it's going to be 25. I mean, it looks like that may still be the case. I think that the Fed might be a little hawkish there when it comes to this. What I'm worried about is they don't act soon, and you're seeing I mean, do we need to see more layoffs? Do we need to see jobs go down further? I think that's the question here. And you would love to see them make a more bold move than just a 25 basis point. Like if they were doing that 2 months ago and then they made another 25 basis point, like that's more in line with where you probably need it to be. But because we've had high rates and loose fiscal policy, it's created a lot of this uncertainty and when you're not seeing jobs get created, I mean, that's what they were talking about, the jobless recession, right? Well, now that it's less than their estimate by 30%. Like imagine if you overpriced a home by 30%, what would happen to you?
Well, probably get fired.
Yeah, right. I think that's
or it's not going to sell.
If you told a buyer, hey, your payment came in 30% more than I anticipated, right? Now, obviously, you're not going to do that because we train on this stuff, but that would cause us to get fired. I think that's very realistic here.
Yeah.
That when you're that far off, and unfortunately, that's not how it works with the Fed.
Right. That's wild.
So here's some other stuff I want to get your reaction to. So, so we're kind of on the same page here when it comes to that there will be a rate cut. I think there's a question of that. Here's some of the other comments from the press conference here. Jerome Powell vowed that we will do everything we can to make sure the labor market stays strong. Then the speech continued with they were consistently drifting back to the 2% target, and they're not there yet. The most recent measurement of the Fed was about a 2.5% inflation rate, down from 3.2% a year ago, well off the peak of 7% in June. So their objective has been to restore price stability while maintaining a strong labor market, avoiding the sharp increases in unemployment that characterized early disinflationary episodes when inflation expectations were less well anchored. But you can't really say that anymore because the unemployment's up so much.
Right. Well, I guess since they like just making adjustments, what if I don't know if this would solve anything, but like 2.5 down from 3.2, that is definitely positive progress for what they were trying to get. Maybe they tweak the number that they're trying to hit a little bit.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I would love that to be the case, but I mean, it's, and one of the chief economists for SMBC, Nico Security, said that Jerome Powell was pretty dovish. He brought the option to do whatever he needs to do to next month, which is clearly an ease. And he also said, I don't think the bar for 50 basis points is particularly high. So there are some people calling for more of a decrease here than what we're going to be seeing. I mean, I don't know what's going to, and there's a lot of time that can go by. Like you get more data. Who the heck knows how this is gonna go on? But I think it's important the Fed came out and said, like, we need to adjust policy.
Right.
So we're on a real estate show.
Yes.
Knowing that the Fed is going to adjust policy, I think it's a certainty. I'm clear it's a certainty that they're going to do some sort of rate adjustment at the September meeting in 21 days. What are you advising your clients right now? This comes up on a call. You're talking to somebody thinking about moving in the next 3, 6, 12 months. How are you explaining this to them if they talk about rates and everything going on? Because I'm clear this is stuff you got to navigate with your clients right now.
Yes. I mean, I think I would reiterate that there is no timing of the market, but that this is what is being predicted. There is a good chance that we could see, rates come down a little bit here. Oftentimes they're baked into things before it actually happens. So important to be in contact with your lender now and kind of find out, where, with your specific situation. Because also you look at the advertised rate. That doesn't mean that's the rate that you're going to get. So kind of getting ahead of that piece and just finding out where you are with what you can control right now and with what we know right now. And then kind of, lining up, if you think that you're a few months away from actually being ready to purchase, now is still a good time to get out there and start looking at homes so that because going into it, I think a lot of times you have a different idea of what you need or what you want versus what you actually need or what's going to work for you. So getting in and kind of taking a look and, getting your feet wet or whatever and kind of start so that you're doing what you can now if you are going to try to anticipate and kind of capture if there is going to be a change here coming up. But then also letting them know when you drop, like if those rates do come down, buyers come back in, And it all kind of comes down to what is your monthly payment. So, you know, is it worth getting that slightly lower rate if you have to go up, you know, X dollars more?
That's a really good point, that it's always about the monthly payment because you can't control the rate. I mean, who the heck knows what's going to happen? So, you know, if I'm an agent right now, I'm bringing up the following talking points. Like you said, a rate cut could spark a spike in buying demand. Like that could cause more people to get back into the market. If rates come down, you know, mortgage rates come down, that's going to lead to faster sales cycles, fewer price adjustments, and a rise in multiple offer situations.
Right.
Is that all fair so far? But then there's the flip side to this, because there's homeowners who have been waiting to sell, clinging to their low rates. They may finally decide it's time to move, bringing some more inventory to the market. We've already seen inventory grow, even as rates have come down. We're at the peak right now for inventory in the U.S. For the year at about 711,000 plus active listings. So potentially you could see more supply and more demand. I mean, that's a very realistic scenario. And then you've got to look at what's best for your household. Now, what I'm clear on is that a lot of people, they tend to wait for like the spring, and there's always opportunity 12 months out of the year to go find a home or sell your home. So I'd be looking at getting a local analysis done, but a rate cut is going to spark demand. I don't think there's any question there. And that leads to faster sales, fewer price adjustments, potentially more inventory and more competition. That's the stuff you got to be aware of. And if you're not having that conversation with yourself, or, you know, looking at those outcomes and just trying to wait this out and see if it goes further, you might be competing with a whole bunch of people again, and then you lose out on terms. So there's two sides of this here when it comes to buying and selling. That's why I'm clear. It's so important to get ahead of this. And if you're an agent right now, you got to be talking to your clients about this stuff. Like, you want to be delivering the news, not the other way around.
Right. And I mean, September is a month where a lot of transactions like typically do happen. You're not yet into that holiday season. There is a pocket there where there's a lot of activity. So for when this would potentially hit, there could certainly be a lot of interested people.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, you're going to have a window here in the market, at least in the Northeast, where you got September up until about like that second week in December. And then everyone kind of goes in like holiday eggnog mode, or whatever you're going to call it. It's like and you know, the holiday party circuit's rocking and rolling. There's cheese everywhere, one of those things. And then you got that, and then the market just restarts literally right after the first of the year. Yep. So if I'm looking at this right now as a buyer, I'm saying I'm keeping my eyes open for opportunities, because there's going to be some sellers that are coming to the market. As a seller, I'm thinking I might want to get my home out there. You know, if you got nothing you're competing with, right? And this is still the case in a lot of neighborhoods, and you can beat some of the competition that may come to the market with a drop in rates, you may do better anyway. And that's where getting that local analysis done is so critical.
Yeah. And I mean, if you are thinking about selling it, I mean, yes, you can go from like, all right, I think I'm going to sell, to having it on the market, you know, in a couple days. But the best way to do it is really to go over everything, especially with some of the changes that have that have come through here in the last month. Making sure you're up on everything. If there are little things that you need to do to get your home ready to hit the market, like, now is absolutely the time to have those conversations and figure out what you need to do. So if you are going to try to like line stuff up, like, you're ready and all you have to do is pull the trigger.
That's really well said. And where agents need to be careful is you start really pushing people, right? It's a bad move, and understanding like, hey, I'm on your time frame. I want you to buy the right home, not the next home. And we want to sell this home for the right reasons. And that's really important language you need to be putting out there constantly, because if you're not, then you're really missing the boat in a lot of cases. So that's a dangerous thing to be doing if you're an agent, just forcing, you know, putting your interest above everybody else's.
Right. I think it's about kind of educating them so that they know the timelines, so that they can kind of figure out, you know, how best to proceed.
Could not agree more. So this is positive news. This is kind of what people were hoping for, probably a little later than some people would have wanted to see. Positive news coming out of the Fed. We'll see what happens with the rate cut in a couple weeks. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come right back, and we're going to be talking about the Homie lawsuit. This is not about Homie the Clown, if you know what I'm talking about, from In Living Color. I don't think so. You have to Google this at the break here. This is something that there's a lot of lessons here for agents. So make sure to stay tuned after the break on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I thought you would have definitely known who Homie the Clown is.
On your money, look no further than
I feel like an idiot.
We've been operating in the greater Philadelphia area.
I wasn't allowed to watch Living Color as a kid, so I would sneak it.
Smooth, easy access.
That might have been like a little bit before. I don't know. I don't remember. Like
It was only
I've
on
heard
2
of
years.
that show,
Jim
but-
Carrey was on there, and like the Wayans brothers and stuff.
Oh, okay.
We also have closing cost assistance.
They actually did a Super Bowl halftime show, and it was like they had a countdown in the corner. I remember this, like they had a countdown in the corner. So it was like 17 minutes. They did all these sketches, and the Super Bowl was back on, or whatever it was.
Oh my
It was pretty wild.
439-8000. We always have a person available to take your call with around-the-clock human service. Purchase your home with the personalized local service you find at Mortgage America. Mortgage America's equal MLS 12850.
The Tom Toole Sales Group is the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania with over $165 million in volume for 2021. I'm Tom Toole, and our team has achieved that kind of success by being a
2021. Give me a
great
break. I
place
can't
to
believe we're
work
doing
with
this long.
and to work
I
for.
know.
No one
I
knows
mean,
great
Maddie wasn't even
better
born
than
yet.
we do.
I know.
First,
real
you were
estate,
pretty
but
pregnant
more
with her, I
importantly,
remember.
Yeah.
we're real people. We hire the best agents, and we give them all the tools to succeed. Even
Yeah,
our
when it
brand
was
new
getting
agents
like
sell
right before I had her, I was
17
like, oh my
24
god, I
homes
hope I don't
because
like
our team
go
delivers
into
the
labor
best
on the show.
experience in
I
real
wonder if that
estate.
would boost
Teams
ratings or
deliver
if that would
better
turn people
experience
off.
than
Would they like it?
individuals,
Would
and
they hate
we're
it?
a top 1%
I
real
would have
estate
called Bridget and be
team
like,
in
you
the
need to get over
country.
here. I don't know.
We call AAA
I've
service,
had
where
3
your
kids and
advocate,
still know what I'm
ally,
doing.
and advisor. Because this
Bring the
isn't a
epidural.
transaction to us. It's a relationship. If you're buying or selling
Oh,
a
the
home,
epidural.
call the
She
Tom
didn't get an
Toole
epidural
Sales
with the
Group
first
at
kid.
line at 610-692.
No, you know, like she wouldn't listen to me. I'm like, you're in labor. I'm not in labor.
Or
I'm like,
visit
Yeah.
you're
TomToole.com.
screaming.
That's
Yeah.
TomToolewithanagent.com.
Oh my god.
Sell your home for
I was
more,
like,
and
get
remember
me
the
that
real
epidural.
estate golden rule. You always get more
We
when you
met
work
Bridget,
with
so I
Tom
know you're
Toole.
surprised. She was telling me like I didn't know what the hell I was talking about.
So did she want it? And she just
Oh yeah,
missed
no,
the.
well, she didn't get there in time.
Yeah.
We barely made it to the hospital.
We have access to great low rates without the complications and delays of big or online banks. We're a local Pennsylvania lender with loan officers that you can actually meet. As
Eric was at a
PHFA's
wedding.
#1
I
lender,
called him and I was like, "You're gonna need to get back here."
I remember you told me you was going to a wedding.
programs and low down payment options. For your free pre-approval, call us at 610.
I wouldn't have been allowed to go.
8000 or apply online
It was
at
like pretty local, so I was like, if you, because it was also like Maddie was a week early. I was like, if you don't go, nothing's gonna happen. If you go, I'm definitely gonna go into labor. But
Is that your labor plan?
Yeah.
Go to a wedding.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God.
Bridget's plan was she didn't want a resident delivering the baby.
okay,
Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Time, and we both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we are talking about this might be a bigger lawsuit than the Sitzer Burnett lawsuit. And I'll tell you why in a second. The Homie lawsuit about steering in real estate. And make sure to stay tuned for the last segment. We've got more lawsuits. This is like, I feel like it's a legal show, not a real estate show, Sarah. The DOJ, again, kind of going back and forth on some decisions they made and people claiming that Realtor.com are selling fake leads. We'll cover that next. If you get some value out of this, you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team about how you can avoid things that like what are happening with a lot of these lawsuits and get some really good advice, you can talk with Sarah. Click on the link in the comments. So the Homie lawsuit. So to give some perspective here, Homie Technology is they are a kind of like a limited service flat fee brokerage. So we've got a bunch of those in our marketplace. And they filed an antitrust lawsuit against NAR. And it was filed in Utah, and it's similar to lawsuits from home sellers, and alleges that these companies have violated antitrust laws. And Homie claims these organizations block new, innovative market entrants from disrupting the traditional real estate model, particularly those that offer services for lower commissions. And the brokerage included several alleged messages from real estate agents to showcase its argument. So we're just going to go through these. I want to get some reaction here. So it was NAR, Anywhere, KW, Home Services, RE/MAX, the local MLS, the Wasatch Front Regional MLS, which is part of Utah. And here was the statement. Homie was founded on the belief that home ownership should be accessible and fair for everyone. And since 2015, Homie has saved consumers $140 million in commissions. Our fight is about so much more than savings. It's about every home buyer and seller who've had to endure a system that puts profits over people. by shining a light on these unjust practices. We're not hoping for change. We're demanding it. We envision a real estate industry where fairness and equity are the standards, not the exceptions. We're committed to building a future where the real estate market works for everybody. Very nice statement. Here's what some of the comments were. So it was the NAR participation rule, which is no longer in effect. And these were messages from agents who blatantly refused to show homey listings to clients unless they raised their buyer broker commissions. This is what it is. I'm going to read. I got 5 of them here. If you up the commission, I will bring my buyers. If not, I will not. It's a disservice to your client. Please educate them. Please let them know that I truly have a buyer that would possibly buy this house. I won't show it until the commission is raised. That's 1. 2, put a unit number and better directions on the listing and get a key for the super box and BAC at 3%. 4th, I'm sure it would sell if you change the BAC to 3%. 5 was not spelled correctly, but it meant to say raise commission to 3%. And then there's actually more here, but here's a text message. I had your home on the list of 4 to show to my buyers tonight, removed it from the list after I saw the 1.5% buyer broker commission. I could always show it and then negotiate the BBC in the contract, but figured why go through the hassle when we have 3 other great listings paying 2.5 to 4%. Anyway, please tell your sellers for me. And then there's a long email that goes on to explain that they should offer out a commission in a range of blank. I mean, but to think a buyer's agent will be working for $500 to $1,000 with all the time and effort we put into finding our clients' homes is sad and unprofessional on your part and will most likely lead to a minimized market exposure for your client. What do you think about all this?
I mean, it's interesting. The fact that people are like calling this and saying this, like, it is funny when you have a listing and if it has been sitting or it hasn't been sitting, and like some agents will call and just be like, hey, if you did it like this, it would probably work for you and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, you don't know what the scenario is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't know what the details of this are. Like, you're just looking at one little piece of it. I think that a conversation that agents should have with their sellers prior to determining, are they going to offer out a commission, how much, is just explain to them like a broad level of like kind of what the different scenarios would be and give them a few different options. And then if they choose to adjust that later down the line, like, you should stay in communication with your clients and give them the feedback. But just like calling and being like, hey, I'm only going to show it if you offer this, like, that's not doing a service to your client.
Mm-hmm.
I think should have the conversation with your client where, hey, if we are super interested in this home, these are the options, because what they are offering out or not offering out is, not an acceptable, that's not an acceptable amount. So, and then put that in your buyer's hand. Like, you don't get to make the decision for your clients whether or not you're going to look at something. So yeah, it doesn't all just fall to the seller or to the listing agent.
These are idiotic comments. I mean, you're being very nice. You tend to be really nice on the show, and then you tell me what you really think in the parking lot sometimes. Like, I mean, this is stupid to be putting this in writing, number 1.
Right.
Number 2, I know you've sold for sale by owners before. I've sold them, and people say, hey, we're not willing to pay anything, and then you negotiate it out. So these are idiotic comments to put in writing. And anyone that's doing this, I mean, is doing their client a disservice, because certainly there's ways to negotiate this stuff out. I don't think there's any question there. So I totally disagree with anyone that's putting their interest before the consumer, which is exactly what's happening here.
Right.
So that's number 1. Then when you go through this here, I mean, if they got texts and emails, I mean, that's, it's just a dumb thing to do. So what makes me nervous about this lawsuit for real estate agents is, are you in like any of these like real estate Facebook groups right now, or like group chats, or you see people talking, right, about like the NAR settlement, what we're dealing with?
Yeah.
So there are people putting some really stupid stuff out there right now.
Right.
They're talking about commissions and fixed numbers, right? They're saying, well, if this happens, I'm going to do this. And everyone's an expert all of a sudden. Right. And I would imagine most of these people haven't even read through the new contracts that they're dealing with.
Right.
So what makes me nervous about this one is that this might have some legs to it if this actually happens. And these companies have been around forever, and they're going to offer those things out. So, I'm not surprised they got some pushback, but why not show it and then try to work it out for your client? That's the right thing to do. So this is not what a good agent is doing. These are hacks, if they ask me, if this is what they're saying here. I mean, and yeah, everyone's got an opinion, right? Like they don't know what's going on with the listing. You're absolutely right.
Right.
I would be very careful what you're putting out there right now if you're a real estate agent and what you're talking about, because everyone thinks, well, I guess this might really mean this, and it's just based on their thought, right? It's not based on any research. It's not based on vetting it through an attorney, a local board, both, whatever. This stuff, like when you put things in writing, it doesn't go away.
Right. I was kind of thinking, and then I saw here, it just says messages. I thought maybe it was like voicemails, but you don't want to leave a voicemail with that either.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to do anything and you don't want to do this period, I think is the point, but
but it is surprising what people will write and say. And,
well, if you think it's not going to come back, I mean, I see these real estate Facebook groups, and I've muted them all on my feed because everyone's just complaining about these new rules, or I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, it sounds like you might be breaking the settlement terms based on some of this stuff. Like, I'm not really sure because I'm not the expert. I'm just going to focus on my business. And I think that's where a lot of agents are losing track right now. But what this could do is, if this is true, I mean, I think there's a lot of problems with. I mean, imagine if this all comes out, right, and they win this. I mean, then I think this could really reckon some of what's going on in the real estate industry here. I mean, what do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it definitely could cause some issues here. And then, I mean, this is going off on like a slightly different thing, but if I were a buyer and I found out that my agent was like sifting through and like not sending me different properties, or if I sent a few that I was interested in and they like came back with like negative things about a particular property, and I at some point came to find out it's because they weren't offering like the commission that they were looking for, I would get a new agent.
I would too.
Like immediately.
That would be the end of the relationship. And I think that's the problem that happens here. Notorious Rob, he's like a real estate blogger. I mean, he's really concerned about this for a lot of reasons, a lot of the same things we're talking about here. And if this is remember the Long Island story we talked about like years ago?
Oh yeah.
Where they're like, oh, you want to live here if you're this, and you want to This is the same thing, and this is not something they can be doing, and it's just a stupid way to do business. So, all that in mind, so do you think what do you think's going to happen with this lawsuit? It might be too early to tell here, for the record.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're probably going to hear more about it. I think it's going to take a while for anything to happen with it, but I think it's all going to get piled into to all these changes and just putting all of this out there, and agents not acting professionally is going to do nothing to help move things along in a positive direction.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, my hope is these hacks are forced out of the industry because they can't deal with things now. I mean, especially if this is what they're doing. I mean, you shouldn't be, especially with the new rules, having to sign a contract before you go look at a home.
Right.
That's all going to, kind of wash this out. Now, of all the antitrust complaints that have been filed against NAR, this is a business entity rather than sellers, buyers, or real estate agents. So I think this is pretty interesting that it's a business entity that's filing this. Now, they've also said that they were stifled, and then the growth of the company was hurt because of this. I mean, that I'm not so sure about, because we've seen these limited service and discount brokerages. They're always opening and closing. I mean, they're constantly out there. Some open up, some shut down. They don't make enough money.
When I think they need to accept a little bit of accountability for if they're not offering, if it's a limited service brokerage that is not doing all of the steps and providing all of the things, they're going to not get all raving reviews and people that are going to stick with them in the long term. So, I think they can't quite blame everything on everyone else. But it is interesting that this one is a business entity.
Well, and you think about these. I mean, there's been a lot of expired listings that I've worked with where they're like, yeah, I hired one of these like flat fee brokerages and they did nothing for me, and I needed guidance because there's two things that happen. One, agents don't tell people what they actually do.
Right.
They just go there, try and get a contract signed instead of educate, right? And give guidance and show a plan. So that's step one. That's a lesson to all the agents out there. Step two is that a lot of people think it's easy and the home's going to sell itself. And some cases that happens. Usually, and I mean, there's a lot of data around this when people sell off, the open market off MLS, they sell for double-digit percentage points less than what they would normally get. So that's a part of this too, is that the consumer result historically is not great with companies like this because they don't have the same skin in the game. They're collecting like a flat fee up front. So
Right.
This will be interesting. There's another one to watch here, right? I mean, we watched the last lawsuit for as long as we've been doing the show.
Right.
So this would be something that we need to be mindful of. So why don't we take a quick break? We're going to come back. We're going to talk about a couple other things happening. So the RealPage lawsuit from the DOJ and the fake leads lawsuit against Move.com, which is the parent company of Realtor.com. Next on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
Deal with all the red tape when getting your mortgage from a big or online bank. At Mortgage America, we have access to big bank money, but with the personalized and detailed service of a local bank. We are here in your community and ready to serve with fast settlements, low down payment options, and first-time homebuyer programs. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. For more information, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000.
I'm Tom Toole of the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. If you're thinking of becoming a real estate agent in the greater Philly area, I have a special offer for you. Our team did $165 million of volume in 2021, making us the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania and a top 1% team nationally. Our agents love us because we offer them a successful career, a great life, and an unbeatable culture. Agents who've been with us for at least a year average 30 plus sales. Even our brand new agents average 17 to 24 sales a year. We offer proven systems and expert training. We help you set more appointments and sell more houses. Now here's the offer. If you don't have a real estate license yet, we offer real estate scholarships so you can get one for free.
Oh, really?
Check it out
Do whatever
at
you gotta take them
Real
whole
Estate
name.
Scholarship
Like-
Program.
Yeah.
Or visit the Tom Toole Sales Group at
Drops these
RE/MAX
close so
Mainline
fast
at
and becomes
TomToole.com. That's TomToole.com. Get more out of your real estate career, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
So is the dog going to be okay, or is this like an ongoing?
No, he's going to be fine. He's going to need, so I have to take him back in 2 weeks. He's probably going to get another allergy shot. But then, like, I think this is like the time of year, like the end of summer is when it like hits for him. So then he should hopefully be good. But yeah, no, so he'll be, but he's funny. He like doesn't really mind going to the vet because he loves attention and pets. And he's just like, yeah, let's do it. Except he doesn't like getting in my car or like when I'm driving because like a year ago I got rear-ended on my way to pick up Maddie and he was in the back seat and now
Probably freaked out, yeah.
so and I'm like, that wasn't my fault. I'm not that bad of a driver. I mean, I'm not the best driver, but I'm not that
Do you
bad.
have these conversations with the dog?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Bridget talks to the dog. So, welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Timon. We both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we are talking about the DOJ taking aim at RealPage and their algorithm, which is very fascinating here, as well as a fake leads lawsuit that just came out against Realtor.com and Move.com. So we've got more legal battles happening in real estate. So RealPage, if you don't know what they are, RealPage is a company that helps people price their rentals. And if you look at, they look at like rental rates, lease terms, projected vacancies, and they have an algorithm, and it's that kind of makes recommendations. Now, in a speech delivered on August 23rd, Attorney General Merrick Garland threw down the gauntlet and alleged an arrangement between landlords and RealPage through revenue management software to increase rents based on data submitted by competing landlords, including rental rates, lease term, and projected vacancies. And what he said here was, as we allege, these are more than just recommendations. RealPage actively polices landlords' compliance with those recommendations. It also monitors landlords' other policies by, for example, trying to stop concessions that landlords use to attract or retain renters. A large number of landlords effectively agree to outsource their pricing decisions to RealPage by using an auto accept setting, which effectively permits RealPage to determine the price a renter will pay. Landlords understand what their arrangement with RealPage gets them. As one said, I always like this product because your algorithm uses proprietary data from other subscribers to suggest rents and terms. That's classic price fixing. The interesting thing about this is that this lawsuit was filed on Friday, but what happened in the past here, and let me just get to the details on it. Or was it here? Here we go. So the years ago, the DOJ, they investigated RealPage, and it was in 2017, and they reviewed their acquisition of the companies and cleared the transaction of any antitrust concerns. So another instance where the DOJ, they reviewed an acquisition, made sure everything was okay. Now they're coming back years later and saying, hey, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's a precedent here,
Yeah.
is what I'm seeing. So what do you think about all this, Sarah?
So, I mean, this only applies to landlords who are using.
They're targeting the algorithm. They're saying the algorithm is creating antitrust behaviors
of people that are using it. Like, just because you have they're not saying like everybody has to use this. But if you use RealPage, they're saying it's antitrust because
everyone's conspiring to fix rentals, rental prices.
Gotcha. I don't know, but I mean, isn't that's kind of like a service that they're signing up for?
I mean, the problem is with this, in my view, is that now this is the second time. Real estate's the first time, right? There's a reopened.
The DOJ.
The DOJ has agreed to something and come back and said, "Hey, we're going to investigate this again because we don't like our decision."
Right.
I don't understand how this is price fixing, in my view. Right. I mean, people are sharing data and making pricing decisions, and it's. I don't understand how that goes. So, I mean, Garland goes on to makes the point that you're trying to compete against one another is what a free market economy is all about, and ensuring such competition is what our antitrust laws are all about. And under antitrust laws, landlords, like any competitor, may not share with each other their confidential, sensitive data in ways that permit them to align how they price their products, in this case, apartments, and thus cause renters to pay more than they would in a competitive market. Using software as a sharing mechanism, we're calling it artificial intelligence revenue management, does not immunize the scheme from the Sherman Act liability.
But I mean, they're like all of the landlords that are using this company have hired them, and then the company is using it within themselves to set the prices for the landlords that have signed up with them.
Yes, and I mean, my view of this is they're actually inhibiting the free market, because what if you look at RealPage's response, the software often recommends adjusting rent downward when some supply and demand dynamics at a property indicate. So if there's like a bunch of 2 bedrooms available in a building and it's not leasing quickly, then it'll recommend the rent price be adjusted. And it will recommend increases at a particular unit type if it's the only property out there. So it sounds like it's supply and demand and it's business intelligence,
right? Not
necessarily antitrust. Doesn't mean the owner has to do that or not,
right?
So I have a hard time with this one.
Right. I think I do too, because it's right. Like it's taking. It's not like you have to use this service. It's not like to rent a home, you have to use it. And that then all that data is being taken. And I mean, are any of the landlords complaining about this? Or it's just the DOJ saying, never mind, we think this is antitrust now.
That's what's happening. I mean, it's the DOJ. I mean, I don't know if renters are complaining or not. I think the bigger issue here is that housing affordability and supply is really tough right now. And this isn't anybody's fault, except there's not inventory available, right? Like there's not enough inventory available to create better affordability. There's going to be competition. You can't stop, Sarah and Eric from saying, hey, I want to buy this house. I'm going to pay more than everybody else.
Right.
Or I'm moving to this new place. I got a new job. I need to rent this property, and I want to rent this place because it's the only 2-bedroom that's available, and
Right.
I want to make sure my daughter has a bedroom. Like,
Right.
you can't stop people from doing that. So, it's another anti-business piece of decision making that's coming out of the DOJ in a very short period of time, and I'm concerned for business owners right now that this keeps happening. I mean, it's just gonna it's now there's a trend here. It's not a one-off anymore.
Yeah. Because I mean, I'm assuming if you are a landlord and you like sign on with RealPage, you probably do sign something about, after a certain number of days, if it goes unrented and if the data shows that it needs to be adjusted, blah, blah, blah. Like, you probably are signing off some decisions where they may not, as long as it falls within like a certain, I don't know, like dollar amount or percentage of like increase or decrease, that they have the authority to go in and do it. But if you're signing on for this service, maybe having, whether it is like, because if it is like a decrease, maybe you're fine with that, because having, additional weeks of your place being unrented is going to be worse for you than having it go down a little bit. We talk about like lagging data all the time when it like then getting compiled and then having to adjust things and blah, 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 blah. Like, if it is kind of a real time thing all within a company that you signed on with, I would almost think that would be a benefit of signing on with that company. So I don't know that I see the problem.
Yeah, and I think that's the that's the challenge here, is that the market's going to work itself out. Sometimes, I mean, landlords offer incentives, right? So they'll do all these things to get people in there, and when you have more data, I mean, it was like when they opened up the MLS. I mean, this is way before you were selling real estate, or even I was, but it was like the data was kept secret. Now it's all out there, so sellers can price their home wherever they want. It's not any different than that that arrangement. So that's where I get a little concerned here, and I'm curious what people will think. Feel free to drop a comment on the YouTube page here, but this and I mean, earlier this year, the FBI performed an unannounced raid of national apartment manager Cortland Management to investigate whether corporate landlords were colluding with RealPage to keep rents climbing faster. I mean, this is, and then a Yield Star, which is it's the name of the technology. It bases those suggestions not on actual renter data, but on the data collected from landlords. So there's a lot into this here. I mean, I don't understand. You can't set prices here. Like, you can't set them low and you can't set them high. And I think that's the argument right now, is like, we want to keep everything priced at a certain level. Well, what if you can get more? Right? What if you can get less? Like, that's not really, I don't see the government should be dictating if you can get more or less. And it's another anti-business piece of decision-making coming out of the DOJ, which I don't like.
Right. Yeah.
So we got another lawsuit, Sarah, before we wrap up here. Well, this one, I mean, I've got a lot of words for it. I'll let you, I don't think I can say any of them on the radio. So there was a new class action lawsuit filed by the real estate agency industry, or filed against Move Inc., which is the parent company of Realtor.com, where 8 real estate agents from 6 states, California, Nevada, Washington, Florida, Georgia, and New York, filed the lawsuit in an LA Superior Court. And it alleges that Move engaged in fraudulent practices by selling fake leads to real estate agents through the following networks: Realtor.com, ListHub, and UpNest. And they claim that NAR was complicit in the scheme due to its close association with Realtor.com and Move. And they named News Corp and OpCity, who all work together. And basically that the plaintiffs allege that Move engaged in unlawfully bundling and selling low quality or fake leads to real estate agents. These leads were purportedly derived from individuals with no interest in purchasing real estate, and leads were not associated with any actual living human being. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think there are so many companies out there that, like, I don't even know how many calls I get a week or a day sometimes saying, like, we're looking for an agent like you in our area and blah, blah, blah. And we need somebody to give leads to. And they all say they're high quality leads. They all say they're the best leads. I think that you need, as an agent, to be able to know enough to protect yourself, and ask follow-up questions. Ask, like, what are the metrics? Like, what are the average days from, getting a contact here to, getting them under contract. Like, what's the answer rate when I go to like reach out to them? And so I'm assuming this is something where people had to pay a couple $1,000s to get like set up with them, and then maybe some type of monthly fee or like whatever. I would be a little bit leery about a lot of those. If you like, you need to research it, you need to look at the reviews. And I think in a lot of those calls that you get, they are high pressure, and they are then like, well, I'm going to set you up with my sales team leader, and here I'm going to patch you through. And you have to be able to like set up, if it's something that like does sound somewhat promising, you have to set up a call date for another time. You have to research stuff. You have to have some questions prepared. Cause I mean, like, it's messed up that companies would do this, but at this day and age, I think you almost have to expect that that's what they're doing, and then look for somebody who's not doing that.
I agree with that. And I also would encourage these agents to look inward, because I've heard this before from people that no longer are in the industry. Oh, these leads suck. These are bad leads. Then, you go and inspect them. Oh, we bought a home. Oh, we transacted. Or you look them up in the public records and you see people actually did something, because they're not doing the right things when it comes to follow-up. And, they talk about misrepresentation of exclusivity. So we do a lot of work with Realtor.com. We have a good amount of lead flow with them. They have some leads that are exclusive and some that are shared leads, right? And then on top of that, if you're not capturing that lead right away, they will re-inbound on other sites because you didn't do a good enough job. Not you in particular, Sarah, but just to be very clear, right? But you didn't do a good enough job following up with these folks. And when that happens, then it's, it's on you. Like, if you don't have your profiles built out, you don't have, you don't call, text, email right away. Speed to lead matters. Like, I'd love to see what these people did when it comes to follow-up. I think this is a ridiculous lawsuit, and it's someone that's going out there. I mean, I'm so sick of these lawsuits at this point. We have too many lawsuits in real estate.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think for this one, it's, you have to take a little bit of responsibility for yourself as an agent to research and find out how legit it is, and if it's something that makes sense to invest in, because typically it is a couple $1,000s that they want you to pay up front, and like you need to be responsible to make sure it is in fact a legitimate option. And then for whatever reasons you would get upset about those leads maybe not panning out, dig into that a little bit and find out if that's how the company handles it. And if you're not okay with that, then don't do it.
So Realtor.com did under-deliver leads for us in the past 24 months. They made it right. They we figured it out, and we had a conversation with them. So I find this all very hard to believe.
Yeah.
I think these are just people that didn't want to, online leads. It's not an easy game. Like, you got to think the average online lead inbounds about 7 times on average as a new lead. Just because you've got the lead, Sarah, doesn't mean that someone else doesn't have the lead.
Right.
We see this happen within our team all the time, where someone registers with like a different email address or a different phone number. Or I have a cousin that works at one of our offices. I've interviewed against him for listings, right? Like, you think, oh, well, I'm the only person they're talking to. That's not how it works. The leads aren't your leads. They're other people's leads. I would challenge them on the follow-up first and foremost. And then, we kind of take it from there in terms of what may happen, because if you're not following up and you're not delivering value, they are going to contact somebody else.
Absolutely.
So I you know what I'd love to see from this? I'd like to see these agents that are named in the lawsuit. We could probably Google them. I don't want to do let's see if they got them all in here. I'd love to see what their production numbers are and what their follow-up systems are like, because I don't know which state they're from, and some of these names are going to be pretty generic here. I mean, you can just look this up. It's right on Now Bam and a bunch of other places. I'd like to see what their actual business looks like. Like, imagine if we ran a test, like we went to their website and like sent our information and see how quick it took us to get a call. Like, that would be very telling.
Yeah.
Because if you're not working the system, then you're not going to, online leads are a tough game, right? I think it's just something you got to follow up a lot with. I mean, what did you use this term when you follow up with an online lead? You call yourself the pest, right? Like, so explain that a little bit.
The pestist.
Whatever you call it, explain where the name came from. This is important to hear.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that typically with a lot of these leads, like, it's very rarely do you get in contact with them and it's like, yes, I am, I am qualified. I'm ready to go. This is the house I want to see. Let's take a look. Yes, I'm going to listen to the advice. Let's get the winning offer. And there we go. Like, no, there are going to be at each step there are going to be a lot of hurdles, and you have to be able to kind of like break through that and stay in touch and in a way that like they will still answer you,
Yeah, I agree.
Like in order to ever have these go anywhere.
Well, and that's totally right. And I think it's, the average lead, you don't talk to anybody until you get like 6 attempts anyway. So if you're one and done on these leads, that's where it really becomes a problem. So I think that's the thing you want to be aware of more than anything else. And so I don't buy this lawsuit here from these people going after Move Inc. So that's what we're going to wrap today. If you want to follow Sarah, she's at Ty_Ty Time on Instagram. You can follow me at TomToole3RD. And we are live every week. So if you got some value out of this, make sure to do us a favor, hit subscribe, click on the bell for notifications. You want to schedule a call with our team, we can help you with all your real estate needs with the link in the comments. That's it for this week's episode of Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.